So Trent, he's been in the industry for quite a while and is just an absolute wealth of knowledge. And the same as with myself, how I love to educate everybody and spend so much time making sure everybody knows exactly what they're about to get into and exactly what's about to happen. It's one of the things I love most about my husband is he does too. So he's going to share some of his extreme knowledge and passion for what he does. And I'm very excited that in the last several years, he joined a company called Solomon Financial, and he's able to live his passion and be who he truly is, doing his job every single day. So I'm going to introduce you all to Trent Devine.
Good evening, everybody. Quick disclosure right off the bat here. I am working from my home office. As you can see, the lovely artwork behind me. And I do have some kids doing some art in the back kitchen, so we may get some background noise, just a heads up. Robin, thank you. I'm always honored when you allow me into the Summer Speaker Series. I know I must be doing something right. So thank you once again. And thank you for taking the time this evening, everybody, to have a listen to what I have to say. I hope you find a lot of value in it. It's something that I really enjoy sharing. I've been sharing it for quite a few years. And it's very similar to what I saw, oh geez, what about 12 years ago, initially that triggered, maybe I should take a look at financial services as a career. Robin and I, we never really had much to do with money back in the day. We knew we got paid. We knew we paid bills. That was about it. And a friend of ours asked if we could help them out. They were in training with a company. Some of you may be familiar with it, World Financial Group. And the loving people that we are, we said, yeah, of course we'll help you out with your training. And that's when we first had our eyes open to the money world and started to get a little taste of education. It wasn't an industry for me at that time. I had the golden handcuffs at a small mom and pop shop that you guys have probably heard of, Costco. Spent lots of time in the grocery industry, just about 24 years. So when I say when I was little, I didn't have a dream of carrying a briefcase and helping people with their finances. But helping people was a platform. And it wasn't until Robin and I were expecting our firstborn, Logan, that things kind of just started to mentally shift for me. I remember being knee high, and the time with my dad was very limited. Maybe an hour after work before bedtime, or the weekends if I didn't get pushed out of the way for chores that he needed to do. So right there, I knew that I wanted to be more of a hands-on dad than what I had. But then reality struck. I don't know how many of you have kids, but kids can be expensive. So taking a look around Costco, I was already top dollar. I had the perfect shifts. Monday I was starting at 7, so I could be home by 4, and Friday I was working until 11, but it was in a department that I loved. So top dollar, the only way I could make more would be to go into management. Now, I've been around the grocery industry long enough to know that management means being on call 7 days a week, 12, 14, 16, and occasionally 18 hours a day. So I really didn't see how those kind of matched up with my goals of being a hands-on dad. So when we were sitting with our WFG advisor saying, hey, our life is changing a little bit, they suggested that I come down and take a look at what they actually do in terms of business, helping families. And so Robin and I went, we were intrigued. So we took their money class. And that's where I learned that, hey, even if this isn't a career choice for me, a path I stay with, the education that I get will still move my family forward. So I can actually provide for my family by helping other families. And that got me excited. And so I gave it a go. And lo and behold, I became addicted to the hope that I was providing at the table. And ever since then, it's something I have to share. The education, whether I do business with a family or not, is irrelevant. It's the doors that it opens for them that excites me. I know that I've left them in a better place. Now, even though I've left World Financial Group, I have to tip my hat because they gave me a fantastic stepping stone to the career that I have now. What about 9.5 years in to World Financial Group, one of the gentlemen that I had hooked my wagon to, I found out was leaving. Now, the reason I hooked my wagon to him is he's very different from the mainstream World Financial Group. World Financial Group is more about distribution than it is sitting there and taking the time with the family. There are the odd agents out there. I'm not going to say there isn't. There are good ones out there that will take the time. I was one of them. But I was starting to become a black sheep in the WFG family because I was taking too much time with a family. And so I gave Dan a call. Dan Dick is his name. He's the founder of Solomon Financial, and heard his story. And his story was very similar to mine in terms of the frustrations on the direction WFG was taking. And so when I shared the news with Robin, her first words were, "When are you following him?" I'm like, I better have another conversation with this gentleman. So took a day, went up to Red Deer and chatted philosophy on how we treat people, how we treat our families, how we want our businesses run. And we were so much on the same page. I walked out of there as a founding partner. And best decision of my life. We can take the time, the resources that we need to do the right thing for family. We've become a collaborative community. We started off with about 33 agents. We've just broken 100. We have boots on the ground from the coast of BC, Alberta, Manitoba, Ontario, Nova Scotia, and New Brunswick. So that's not too bad for 3 years' time. And we are able to draw upon the resources of those fellow agents. So when you work with Solomon, you're not just getting one person, you're getting a whole team behind you that collaborates to make sure you have all the options that you want to choose from. So based on that, I have a presentation tonight that I'd like to share with you that is just a starting foundation so you can understand how money works a little better. That way, if you're working with somebody, you might be able to ask more questions, or if you're not working with somebody, you can find somebody and ask some questions. So I'm just going to share screen here. And I'm also going to ask that if there's questions that come up, hey, write them down. Go grab yourselves a pen and paper. There is a quiz at the end, so you'll want that pen and paper. But if you have questions, we'll cover them at the end. And if we need to backtrack to the particular slide that you're referring to, we'll take the time to do that. That way we're not interrupting too many trains of thought at once. The screen's not moving on it. Do I have the full sharing capability? It's green bar.
Are you able to just use your arrows?
That's what I'm trying to use.
I'm going to make you a co-host and see if that makes a difference.
It's because people are watching now. Don't worry, folks. In my circles, I am not known as tech savvy. If there's a technical glitch to happen, it's this guy to cause it.
Do your arrows work?
My arrows do not work. Is there arrows on the screen maybe I can use?
There you go.
All right. Yay for touchscreen. Okay. So little disclosure here. These illustrations are based off of a 50-year average and rounded for ease of illustration. So tonight's outcome is I want to help you understand why we invest, how we invest, and where to invest outside of real estate. So I'm talking where you can actually park your money in markets. All right, and we're going to start with the 5 biggest impacts that influence our money. Inflation, rate of return, diversification, taxation. So those are all big players, and we're going to discuss those tonight. And one of the biggest one, I don't know why, but I always seem to leave it for last. Procrastination, the time effects on money. I saw something on the screen here. All right, setting the stage. I hope you guys don't mind, but this is like the second time I've presented this over Zoom, and it's designed to be very interactive. So I'm going to have to play here a bit, use my imagination, but I'm going to ask you to use yours as well. I'm going to allow you all to adjust your time clocks back to a time or towards a time of the age of 30. Who wouldn't want to be 30 again? Okay, so we're going to use an inflation rate of 3.5% per year. A 30-year-old earning $30,000 a year. What happens over 35 years? Well, close your eyes and imagine. You're earning $30,000 a year. Inflation is 3.5%. By the time we hit 65, to have the exact same buying power, we're going to need to be earning $100,000 per year. Okay? So make sense of that. Today you're 30, earning $30,000 a year. Your lifestyle is what it is. Some of us were married with kids, some aren't. We love to travel. Maybe some were still going to school with part-time jobs. But by the time you turn 65, that maintain that same lifestyle that you had earning $30,000 a year, you're going to have to be earning $100,000 a year just because of inflation. So what does that mean for our retirement? What kind of a pool are we going to have saved up? Well, in order to generate the equivalent of $30,000 today's income, the 30-year-old needs to save $1 million. That way, that $100,000 a year is being drawn down at 10% a year. So we've got that million running at 10%. We're just skimming the growth off the top. Okay. So what do we need to do to set that $1 million aside for us? Well, growth rate, 4%. Now, let's be honest, folks. How many institutions do we know today that are offering 4% rate of return? None. If there was, we would know about it because it'd be on the news and people would be lined up around the corner to get it. The 4% is actually coming from that 50-year average on what institutions used to give for a rate of return. Today, you can find a 3.5%, 3%, on their high interest savings account, which is good for about 6 months. Then it drops down to 1%. So in general, today's banks are offering anywhere from 0 to 3%. So if we've got a 4% rate of return, we need to set aside $1,000 a month for 30 years to get our $1 million. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't know too many people who've got an extra $1,000 kicking around to put towards their retirement. Lots of people would love to, but not many people do. 6% rate of return. That number drops down to $700 a month, which is better. It includes a few more people, but not enough people. 10% rate of return. Now we're talking $260 a month. That is an easier pill to swallow. I'm sure you'll all agree. Some financial households, that still be a bit of a grasp, but we work with everybody, and we start with cash plans first, reacquaint people with their money, start that relationship over again, and we can probably find a way to get close to that number. Now, I know there's, all of you are smart cookies. You're probably seeing a number that you're going, come on, Trent, that's a little outrageous. That's probably this number right here, 10%. 10% for most people is considered the financial unicorn. As we know, institutions are offering 0 to 3. Where's this 10% coming from? Well, let's take a look at that. We all have a bag of money. And from a very young age, we were taught to take it somewhere. The bank. Take it to the bank, we take it to the trust companies, saving institutions. And for our business, they kindly repay us with a 0 to 3% rate of return, which we've accepted ever since our parents took us in there with those little checkbooks that we could stamp. Now, what else do these institutions do with our money? They give it back to us. Well, not give us. They lend it back to us in the forms of lines of credit, loans, credit cards, mortgages. So the institutions are earning a 2 to 26% rate of return on our money. Okay, that is a fantastic business model. Who doesn't want to own a bank? I'm in. I can't afford one. Now, is that the only thing these institutions do with it? If we picture our favorite robbery movie, where our main characters just blown the locks on the vault door, and they go and they rip it open, and we see those pallets of cash and gold sitting there. Is that actually the case? No. The institutions send that money over to professional money managers, where those money managers earn on average 12 to 14%. Now, because they're in the business of making money grow, they need to get paid too. So they take 2% off the top. Whatever they grow, they keep 2%, giving a 10 to 12% rate of return back to the institution. So now these institutions have a spread. You take your rate of return, that 10 to 12 that they're getting from the professional money managers, add it to the money that they're getting back from us, and they're getting a spread of anywhere from 10 to 38%. Okay. So why not bypass the banks, bypass those institutions? And that's what Solomon does. We show families how they can actually get their money working for them. Now, there's a lot that goes into work behind the scenes to ensure that the investment is the right fit for the family. There's the age that's involved, which means the amount of time that the money has to sit there, the use for it, for the money, as well as your comfortability. Some people might not be comfortable with the risks that are associated with getting that 10%. Rule of 72. This rule here shows us how compound interest works. Now, Albert Einstein is credited for coming up with the equation that explains it, but it's been around a long time. So we take our interest rate, we divide it into 72, and it tells us how many years it takes for our money to double. So if we take a look at our previous slide, where we're looking for a 4% rate of return, divide that into 72, it tells us that our money will double every 18 years. Okay. Unfortunately, we're getting 3 to 0.5%, so that's going to be more. 1 in 72 years. Now, if we move over to the next number here, 18, I like to say that's the average credit card rating. I've seen introductory rates of 0% to credit cards from Leon's in the brick that are 35, 36%. So here we've got a credit card at 18%. That balance is going to double every 4 years. So this is a great piece that you guys can write down right now. And when we're done the presentation, you can do homework. What do your credit card bills look like? How bad are they going to get? If you don't understand that relationship, great piece of homework. Okay. We saw the bank getting a 12% rate of return. The money doubles every 6 years. So let's add some numbers so we can actually visualize how money is working here. How many of you would love to get your hands on $10,000 to invest responsibly for retirement? I'm hoping all of you are putting your hands up. I can't see them, but I'm envisioning it. So because you want to do the responsible thing, let's go to an institution, put it in for that full 35 years at 4%, because we're doing it for the long haul. They're going to give us 4%. Oh, crank the time back one more year, bonus year. So 10,000 at 4%, 29, 10,000, 47, 20,000. Go for retirement. We're at $40,000. Money well earned. Now the institution is going to get 12%. Now 12 is 3 times greater than 4. So we should end up at the end of the day with, according to the math that we were given when we were in school, at least 120,000. Let's take a look. 12%. Well, actually by age 41, they've got that same $40,000 already. Now, what do you think the likelihoods are that the institution is going to call me up and say, hey, Mr. Devine, your 40 grand's ready? Woo-hoo. Yeah, no. The institutions understand the power of money, the power of duplication, compound interest. So at 41, it's $40,000, turns to 80, 53 is 160, 59 is $320,000. By the time we hit retirement, that $10,000 has grown to $640,000. Now, this is when they call me up. I head in for my retirement check, and they usually, some institutions, depending on which ones you go to, they can hand you a catalog for a retirement gift. And I usually suggest getting the toaster, because then when you buy your bread, you've got options. You can make toast later. But that $640,000 $100,000 goes into the institution's pocket. I would prefer if it went into somebody, that the person who deposited the 10 grand. I prefer that it goes into their pocket. We have a saying in the office that $600,000 goes a long way to a family's retirement. So that's compound interest. That's the impact that procrastination can have on our money. The longer we wait to get this ball rolling, the less of it we're going to have at the end of the day. And it's crazy the way the system's designed, because younger folks who have got all the time in the world for their money to grow, the rate of return isn't as important. But as we get older, our risk levels get too high and they start to restrict our risk levels. And it's actually then that we need those larger rates of return. Okay, so I mentioned earlier about comfortability. So it doesn't really matter what the rates of return are, what your financial plan is built like. If you're not comfortable with it, you're probably not going to stick with it. So I'm going to share the tale of two cities. And feel free to let me know if you'd like to stay or if you'd like to move. City 1 versus City 2. City 1 has an average temperature, so year round, of 25 degrees. City 2 only has an average of 18 degrees. Where would you prefer to live? Think about it. Okay, you don't have to say anything. Just want you to visualize for me. All right, let's take a look at the lows. City 1, the lowest it gets is 2 degrees. City 2, 10 degrees. Hey, that's not bad. Has anybody wanted to move yet? Let's take a look at the highs. City 1, 49 degrees Celsius. We kind of have an idea of what that's like now, thanks to a couple of weeks ago, especially Port Town and Lytton. That's hot. The high of City 2 on average is 25 degrees. Whew, that's much better. My preference, just on temperature alone, I would say City 2. So the variance between City 1 is 47 degrees. That's awfully uncomfortable. City 2 is only 15 degrees. That's much more comfortable. So when it comes to living, I'm more likely to live in City 2 than City 1. And the names kind of tell you why. Talking about Death Valley, California versus San Diego, California. Who's up to move into City 2 now? Okay. So comfortability plays a big part in how we invest. The way we get more comfortable is by understanding what's going on. It's that fear factor, right? I'm scared of cooking, so let's move. But when it comes to money, it's no different. The more we understand what's going on, the more we participate, the more we understand, the more we become comfortable with what's going on. So let's take a look at how to invest. And it's called dollar cost averaging. Now I'm going to give you each another fictional $100 a month for 4 months to invest. I just love giving away free money, especially when it's virtual. Okay. So we've got two funds here to work with. We have Fund A in orange and Fund B in gray. Now, before you pick the fund you want to work with, which one is more typical of our markets today? I think they're kind of doing this. B. Okay, that's more of today's markets. So make your choices, make your picks. I won't hold them against you. Ready? Here we go. Okay, so on the side here, we have their units that they're invested for. We're both funds are starting off at $10 a unit or $10 a share. So 10 from $100, you can buy 10 units. As A goes up, your dollar doesn't go as far, so you can't buy as many units. In B, the fund is going down, so your dollar becomes more powerful. You can buy more units. That trend continues. A is getting more expensive. That's good, right? It means it's going in the right direction. And B keeps falling. You're buying more. This is where I like to refer the concept of red tag sales. Okay? Whether you're buying a car, shoes, clothing, how many would prefer to pay full price for one item or full price for two, or maybe full price for four, right? There's that value. Your dollar is going further for you. No different in the markets. All right, so at the end of the month, A is still growing, B has come back to par. What happens? How many units have we purchased? A has purchased 27 units, B has purchased 90. 27 times 25 versus 90 times 10. So both funds have made money. High fives to everybody in the room. You all made money. Question is, did you do it effectively? Did you get as much out of it as you could have? Dollar cost averaging. It's not so much about timing the market as it is time in the market. Imagine if we weren't just investing once a month. Imagine if we were doing it every 2 weeks, once a week. All those little ups and downs that the market takes, every time it goes down, you're buying stuff on sale. Unfortunately, most people get the fear factor of the markets. When things start going down, they jump ship. They pull their money out. And then when things are going back up, they get back in. Things start going back down, they get out. Start going back up, they get in. And what we're finding is people are slowly eroding their savings. If they just got in and added a little bit every month, just a little bit, they'd be so much further ahead. Okay. So that's how you want to invest, is as often as you can. So San Diego is that 15-degree variance. There's Death Valley. The bigger drops, you can get more in at the bottom of those, and it's going to carry your returns up. Right? The price per unit means the more units you can collect, the bigger winner you're going to be. All right, let's take a look at where to invest. So these 4 buckets are all identical. The only thing different with them, besides their name, is the tax implications that go along with them. Okay. Now, I promised you guys a quiz at the beginning. This is it. So I hope you wrote some notes. Okay, we've got our RSPs. We have our non-registered, we have our tax-free savings accounts, and we have our permanent life insurance. Okay. Now, who can recall how much we needed in our pool of funds for retirement? Well, I should probably give you some advantages here first too. Good thing it's on slides. Okay, so RSP bonus, tax write-offs, tax deferred growth, 100% taxable when you draw it out. Okay, that's 100% of your marginal tax rate. So every single penny in there is taxable at your marginal tax rate. Non-registered can create tax deductions, can be tax advantage growth, and at the end of the day, only 50% of the growth is taxable. Tax-free savings account, no tax write-offs, no tax on growth, must be at least 18 years of age to contribute. There are contribution limits. Every year the government can adjust it. It's been as low as 5,000 and as high as 10. But when you draw upon it, zero tax. Lovely place to be. And this is where a lot of institutions are really taking advantage of the tax-free savings account. I like to refer to them as an investment account because you can get, oh, computer's getting ahead of me. Make it go away. Because you can get rates of return higher than that promotional 3%. With permanent life insurance, there's no tax write-off. It does have tax deferred growth. You have to qualify with good health, and you have the potential of tax-free income. Okay, so my computer answered my earlier question. What is our pool of money needed for retirement? And what is it growing at? So $1 million at 10%. Why? Because we need an income of $100,000 per year. So on an RSP, what does that look like? $100,000. Now the 40% comes from the Canadian average. So all the provinces are a little different. The average is 40% on 100,000. Means at the end of the day, we have $60,000 in our pocket. Now, let's go back to the beginning. What is the reason we needed the $100,000? Because that maintained our standard of living when we were earning $30,000. Okay. Now, some of us may be in a lower standard by the time we hit retirement, which is awesome, but some of us may have higher standards. Right? We may start having grandkids. There's RESP contributions, birthdays, traveling, college. Sorry, honey. So is $60,000 going to cover it? Chances are we might go looking for more. Now, this is also income tested. Our CPP and OAS, there could be clawbacks involved from those programs if we're earning too much from our RSPs. All right, non-registered. If we withdraw $100,000 at 10%, that's $90,000 in our pocket. Well, if 50% of the growth, shouldn't that be 20%? Well, down here in the disclaimers here, assumes a 50-50 growth to capital. Capital is the amount of money that you put in personally. The capital is returned tax-free, and then 50% of the growth is taxed. So 25,000 at 40% equals 10% effective. Okay, so that's why it says 10% there. 90,000. Now that's closer to what we were looking for. but is it where we want to be yet? No. So let's take a look at the tax-free savings account. You take out 100,000, zero tax, $100,000. Yes, that's what we want. That's a fantastic tool. Okay, the permanent life insurance. Options. Who doesn't love options? You can set it up where you can either receive 80,000 anywhere to the full 100,000. So the reason it's 80,000 is because it can be taxed, or it can be utilized in a way where you can receive that 100,000 tax-free. And that's a deeper discussion than what I'd like to go into tonight. But if anybody wants to get a hold of me and go down that rabbit hole and learn more, I'd be happy to. Okay, so that options are huge. Now let's go back to the rule of 72. We know that this money growing at 10% is going to double every 7.2 years. So call it 7 years for just ease of math, okay? Now, these three here, we have to physically redeem that money to use it. Here, I mentioned there's that tax-free option. That is where you use this item as collateral, so you're not physically removing it. So can something grow larger than itself if you're constantly pulling from it? Right, that 1 million grows to 1.1, but before it can grow to 2.2, you've pulled that 10% out. So it can't grow any further. Where our permanent life insurance, it's sort of like a personal pension plan, because you're not physically removing that money. Every 7 years, that 1 million is going to double from 1 to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 8. Gotta add more fingers. Okay. So we have covered why we invest, how to invest, and where to invest. Now I see here there's some comments down in the chat. I'll open it up for some questions and see if we need to cover anything. City 1, City 2. All right. 100K. Look at Robin. Gold star for Robin. Okay. I hope everybody got some value out of that. Any questions?
So if anybody has any questions right now, you're more than welcome to unmute yourself, or you can type something into the chat. This is just a really good time that if you have a question or something that you've been curious about, and it's always great to be able to ask somebody directly face to face if you can, but we're not always in the same rooms at the same time. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to put your hand up. You can use the reactions, or you're more than welcome to actually ask the question. You're allowed to do that. I know for myself, it was extremely mind-blowing, kind of eye-opening kind of stuff when I first got to learn about a lot of these things, because there's a lot of talk about the new Alberta curriculum for kids and schools and all that kind of stuff. And I remember learning, the only advice I was ever given when I was in high school was from my social studies teacher. And he was this really sort of cranky old man. And in grade 12, he literally looked at everybody, goes, just start putting money into your RRSPs like now. And that was the only thing I ever knew. My parents never talked to me about money, about RRSPs, about investments of any kind. And even then it wasn't understood, where it should go, why it should go where it does. And so that was always such a huge piece for me once I started learning about that kind of stuff. So, but Jacqueline has a question about um, uh, life insurance. Yeah, private life insurance, right?
Permanent life insurance.
Haha,
Yeah,
close.
Jacqueline's asking for the permanent life insurance, is there options for those who may not qualify on all health basis? That is a great question. And unfortunately, the window of options really narrows because it is such a tax advantage tool. Health is a big issue. The larger the health policy, the more that you can shelter within it. So if health is an issue, can we get permanent life insurance on you? Chances are we can probably find something, but will it give you the cash advantages of the strategies seen in this presentation? Likely not.
It's a good question though, Jacqueline, because yeah, I didn't understand what permanent life insurance either was. So yeah.
Yeah. If health is even worse, if you're not going to qualify for standard life insurance, you're probably not going to qualify for the permanent life insurance with the cash values. Some companies are a little more lenient. It all depends on conditions involved. It might be more of a personal conversation that we want to have. Otherwise, how much are you taking advantage of the tax-free savings account? Like that's the next best thing.
Cool. Well, one of the things that we can do is, Trent, if you want to put your email address into the chat, and then if anybody has any questions, they can definitely reach out to you directly. And when this does go up on YouTube, I'll make sure that the Solomon Financial website, as well as your email address and contact information is there. And then if you have questions, or if you want to ask more detailed stuff about what Trent was able to chat about this evening, please, reach out to him directly and we can do that. But every time I get to sit in on the presentation, and whether it's Trent, somebody else at his office and so on, I love, because I learn something new every single time. And, it's notorious in my family that we don't talk about money. We're not allowed to talk about money, and you shouldn't know how much who has invested where and all that kind of stuff. And that gave me a lot of insecurity when it came to money as an adult. So I'm really grateful that we're, slowly teaching our children and making sure that as few people are in the dark about it as possible. So it's really, I love how much passion you have for it. It's inspirational for our family, at least, and for our kids. And so I'm really grateful that you wanted to do another summer speaker series this year. So
I'm always up for it. I'm just glad you keep asking me back.
Well, I know where you live. So anyways, I hope everybody has a really, really great rest of your evening, and we will see you at our next chat.
Thank you very much, everybody, for tuning in. I appreciate it.
Thanks.